and Pavan guessing. Peter and Jane 6C reading with sounds. Apple, ball, cat, dog, egg, fish, girl, hat, ink, leg, man, net, orange, sun, two, umbrella. Here is a pig. Say the word pig. What is the sound when you start to say pig? Here is a pen. Say the word pen. You make the P sound when you start to say pen. Here is a pencil. You say the word pencil. What is the sound when you start to say pencil? Here is a picture. Say the word picture. You make the P sound when you start to say picture. Here is a rabbit. Say the word rabbit. What is the sound when you start to say rabbit? Here is a red. Say the word red. You make the R sound and you start to say red. Here is a road. Say the word road. What is the sound when you start to say road? Here is a room. Say the word room. You make the R sound when you start to say room. Here is some water. I can say water. It starts with W. Here is a woman. I can say woman. It starts with the W. Here is a window. I can say window. It starts with the W. Here is a wall. I can say wall. It starts with a W. This is some jam. You can say jam. It starts with a J. This is some jelly. You can say jelly. It starts with a J. This is a jug. You can say jug. It starts with J. This is a jar. You can say jar. It starts with J. Pot, rug, jet, jar, rag, jam, wall, peg. It's a jar. It's a jar of jam. It's a rag. It's a red rag. Here is a top. He stops at the top. This is the cat is on the rug. It is a red rug. It is a red rug. She gets a pot. She puts jam in the pot. The dog is wet. He rubs the dog. She gets the ham. She puts ham in the pan. She has pegs. She has lots of pegs. We see a key. We can say key. We start with K. We can see a kettle. We see a kettle. We can say kettle. It starts with a K. We can see a king. We can say king. It starts with a K. We see a kitten. We can say kitten. It starts with a K. Look at the van. You say van. It starts with a V. Look at the vase. You say vase. It starts with a V. Look at the wine. You say wine. It starts with a V. Look at the violin. You say violin. It starts with a V. X as in box. X as in fox. Y for yellow. Z for zebra and Z for zoo. Pig, tent, cat, car, peg, pen, rug, mug, top, pot. For quarter, here is a quarter. For queen, here is a queen. For queen, here is a queen. Grandfather and grandmother write to say that they want to go away to the sea. They want dad and their children to look after their dog, their house, and their garden when they are away. Mommy reads the letter to Peter and Jane says, "Good, I want to look after the house." Peter says, "Yes, it will be fun. I will take the dog out every day. We can all look after the garden." "Let us write a letter to grandmother and grandfather," says Jane. "Yes," says Peter, "we will do it now." Mom reads to Peter and Jane. Grandfather and grandmother want to go away. Peter and Jane will help Peter says, "Yes, I want to do it." The children write to their grandmother and grandfather. Jane has a pencil and she writes down the words. Mommy and Peter help her. They tell Jane what to write. Jane writes, "Dear grandmother and grandfather, thank you for your letter. We will look after your house, your garden, and when you are at the sea. We like to help you very much. We will take the dog out every day for a walk, and we will look after the birds and flowers. Have a good time at the sea. Love from Jane and Peter." They want to write. Jane has a pencil. They like to help very much. We will take the dog out. Peter's father takes his own father and mother to the station by the car. Peter and Jane are with them. The children are going to their grandmother and grandfather. Off at the station, Peter and his sister help grandmother and grandfather out of the car. Dad has bags. They find the train in the station. Soon, grandmother and grandfather are in the train. Look after each other, says Dad. Yes, we will, says grandfather. Have a good time, says the children. The train pulls out of the station. Peter's father has a car. Dad has the bags. Peter and Jane look up at the train. The children are not in the train. Here are Dad, Peter, and Jane are at grandfather's house. They have come by car. Her baby doll and with her today. They got into the house. They have been here a lot of time before. The children like to come to this house. They like their grandfather and their grandmother very much. Soon they start to work. Jane does the work in the house and Peter and his father go into the garden. Peter looks for grandfather's dog. He wants to take him for a walk. They are at grandfather's house. They go into the house. Soon they start to work. Peter looks for the dog. Peter is out with the dog. He takes him where he can run about. It is a very hot day. Peter finds the best to walk under the tree because it is not so hot there. There are trees by the water. Peter sits on a wall by the water. He looks at some other boys as they play with a ball. One of the boys lets the ball go into the water. Peter tells the dog to go in the water. The dog jumps in and gets the balls for boys. The dog likes to run. The boy lets the ball go into the water. The dog can get the ball. He jumps in. He jumps in for the ball. Peter and his father are in grandfather's garden with them. Jane is with an old friend of her grandmother who lives next door. This friend is going to let her have some eggs. Peter's father has work to do. Peter helps him and then he has a game with the dog. The dog likes to jump for a ball and run after it. It is not hot now. There is some water in the garden. Soon Peter lets the ball go into the water. I will get it, he said. Jane has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eggs. The dog runs and jumps. It hot now. Look, says Peter, the ball is the water. Jane comes out of the house into the garden. She sees that the ball is in the water and that Peter is going to get it. Don't get wet, Peter, she says. But Peter uh, soon in the water. Help, he says. Help me, Dad. Help me, Jane. I'm in the water. Help me to get out. The dog jumps into the water. He wants to play with Peter. Dad and Jane run to pull Peter out of the water. They get him out, but he's very wet. Dad works in the garden. Help, he says. Help, Jane. Help me, Jane, says Peter. The dog sees the Peter in the water. Peter is very wet. Jane in the garden. Jane is in the garden. She can see some birds as they fly around the trees. She knows that her grandmother and grandfather love birds. Grandmother gives them something to eat every day. Jane says they look as if they want to eat now. I must get something for them. So gets some cake and put it out for the birds. Soon they come home to eat it. Jane looks at the birds as they eat the cake. Then she gets some flowers from the garden for the friend who lives next door. Jane is in the garden. She looks at the birds as they fly around the trees. Jane eats some cake, gets some cake for the bird. The bird eat the cake. Grandmother and grandfather have come home today. They have had a good time by the sea. Here is grandmother with Jane. She takes off her hat and she sits down to have some tea and talk to Jane. Jane tells her about house, the garden and the bird. She says the grandmother's friend next door gives them some egg. Then Jane talks about her own friend. She tells grandmother about Mr. and Mrs. Green, Bob, Mary and Molly, about Pam and about old Tom who lives by the sea. Grandmother takes off her hat. They have had a good time. Jane talks about Pam and Bob. Jane talks about old Tom. Grandfather thanked the children for the help they gave when he was away. He says he will take them to the zoo. Off they go the next day. Grandfather has no car, so they go by train. At the zoo, they walk around for some time and then they have something to go eat. Then Peter says, I want to go on the elephant. Here he is on the elephant. Jane looks at an ostrich. What a big bird, she says. The children have good time. The children have good time at the zoo and then they go home. They thank grandfather very much. Peter and Jane go to the zoo. The children like the zoo. Peter gets up on the elephant. They thank grandfather very much. Thank you.